What is happening, everyone? Welcome to NBA Live Before Lock, and it's tip for first day of I was going to say tip off of baseball season, but not quite right. It's first pitch of baseball season. I don't know. There isn't really an equivalent of tip off like you would say in baseball, but start of baseball season was today, and games are currently ongoing. We do have those games playing over on playback right now, so if you guys do want to check out playback, you can see the games on screen. We've also got a bunch of guys who are over there currently giving out some betting advice over there, and I will see how many people are watching live before lock. Kind of for me, undecided if I'm going to go live on playback after this. I might not. It'll really depend mostly on how many people are here for live before lock and how many people I think will come over to playback, because we also got the NCAA games today. In addition to baseball opening day, we've got really tiny NBA DFS contest leagues relative to what we normally get. Like the main slate on DraftKings, less than 10,000 entries. So we'll see. We'll see. 1-2 says just woke to $900 of MLB entries, no lineup set. What the hell is your sleeping schedule? Is my first question.
That's my first and only question, to be quite honest. Busy day in the sports world. Opening day for MLB on the same day as the NCAA tournament. So always going to be a fun in that regard. And then NBA also is in full steam ahead for the playoffs. I'm already on full MLB tilt. I played a lot of Atlanta, bunch of Ozzie Albies who homered and then got robbed of a second home run, in his last at bat, which is just like brutal because he would have been a must have at that point. But that's like the perils of actually watching the games is you see stuff like that.
Yeah, you don't want to fall into that trap. So for myself, just because I was so busy with other meetings and work and putting out educational content with baseball starting, I was like, I'm only going to play one lineup today. I honestly, I built the lineup out. I guess I forgot to hit save or whatever because I was doing so many things at once. But I go to look at my lineup. What actually happened is because after live before lock, Eric and I were hanging out in playback for a little bit watching the games, and somebody said to me, "Did you mean to play?" Somebody asked me why I played Rojas at third base, who's on the injured list. I was like, "What? I don't know why you're asking that." And I go pull up like, this is just a dummy lineup, and I have no clue. I have no clue how that ended up being my lineup, but that's what ended up happening. I fucked it up while I was looking at other stuff. The one saving grace is that I was going to be playing a giant stack, which wouldn't have done all that great anyway. Although who knows, maybe they'll hit a bunch of homers after I said that. So at least it looks
I played them too. They won't hit a bunch of homers. Don't worry.
So we'll see what ends up happening. Maybe my dummy lineup will come through. I did have Zach Wheeler and Paul Skeens as the pitchers, and Wheeler at least did fairly decently at low ownership, but whatever. We've got NBA to talk about. So do us a favor, guys. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do really appreciate all of those impressions. They help us out a whole bunch in the YouTube algorithm. It only takes a half second of your time. And Matt and I are now going to be breaking down this NBA slate for all of you who are watching us. We did get some news from your Cleveland Cavaliers, Matt, where we've got no Ty Jerome today. As far as players who are on the injury report for the rest of the day, we do have Josh Giddey. He is officially questionable to play. We have, and these will just be, I'll list off all the players for the entirety of the day's games, even across the night games, but Jalen Williams questionable, Amin Thompson questionable, Malik Monk questionable, Nikola Vucevic questionable. So Bulls could be a really, really important team for the main slate here with possibility of no Josh Giddey and a possibility of no Vooch. And then on top of it, it starts at 8 p.m., which is one of the later lock times. That's going to be an interesting hurdle for us. Then you've also got Tumani Kamara's questionable today. Steven Adams is questionable. Cason Wallace is questionable. Of the injuries, Matt, what is most pressing to you? What do you think is most important to your lineups?
I think it's got to be the Bulls as a whole, as you mentioned. Just they have the potential to be crazy. So I think for me, it's the Bulls as a whole. How about you?
It's got to be the Bulls, and it's for the two reasons that I hit on before, which is if Giddey and or Vooch are out, massive, right? That's just massive for the value could open up. But then the other part of this too is when you consider the time that game locks, 8 p.m. Eastern time, we may not know. We might not know at all, not even an inclination of whether these guys are going to be in or out until after the 7:30 games lock. So we might not even have a lot of flexibility unless we take some sort of stands to try to make sure we have some flexibility ahead of time. So with that in mind, do you have a lean on whether Giddey and Vooch are going to be in or out? And how are you going to approach that situation? It's massive for the slate.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you that. It is massive. I feel like the slate is condensed enough where, man, your point about it being a late game, I'm not sure how I'm going to handle it yet, to be completely honest. I'm hoping we get some news throughout the show, even though I'm not counting on it. How do you think you're going to handle it as of this moment?
Yeah. So right now I just have these guys in, but what I'm planning to do, if we don't have any updates in say like 30 minutes or so, I'm actually going to update projections and take both Vooch and Josh Giddey out in that scenario. And then I'm going to reproject the Chicago Bulls just because that's where I don't know whether they're going to be in or out. My best guess is actually they both sit, but there's so much more of an edge to the slate if you're right on that news than any other possible scenario.
Yeah, it's a good call. And it reminds me kind of last night with Tatum. Like, didn't end up working out that great, but I expected Tatum not to play because they're playing for nothing. And I know he went through shoot around, but I just didn't think they were going to let him play. And so I used a bunch of Porzingis. I ended up not using other guys because I was hesitant because the Denver game had such good pieces and we didn't get the news till after. It ended up you needed a couple Boston guys to get there. Porzingis was great, and Al Horford was a slate breaker. So reminds me a little bit of last night in that regard, and that I think you're right, and that's where the edge is.
Yeah, so we'll see. We'll see what kind of updates we get. Do you have a particular lean on whether these guys are going to be in or out in this matchup against the Lakers?
I don't really. I mean, they just put it on the Lakers pretty badly in LA. I imagine, this is obviously a get up spot for everyone. So if they can give it a go, they're going to give it a go. I guess because of that, I'll lean towards they play, but it's nothing more than that, just a lean. That's all.
And I'm going to give you a little bit of poker and insight into this. Kind of like if I'm running the injury reports for these teams and I'm trying to put some Fugazi injury reporting out there for guys who are going to sit, do you know what Josh Giddey's injury is listed as?
No, tell me.
Right flexor carpi ulnaris tendinopathy. Like I'm putting If I want to hold a player out and not have the NBA on my case, I'm putting the most nonsensical injury on there where somebody looks and be like, well, this must be serious. There's a lot of words here.
That's hilarious. It's weird because the Bulls have been actually playing better of late too. So not that they're playing for that much. They're pretty much secured in the play-in seed, but I don't know. I don't know how hurt these guys really are at this time of year. We see a lot of Fugazi questionable tags. I mean, throughout the season, but especially right now. So I guess my lean, and that's it, is that they play, but I don't have any strong take about it.
And in chat, we've got Cantalter God's Plan said Vooch isn't out. No, he's questionable. We're just kind of speculating what's going to end up happening. He is questionable. I don't know for sure that he's going to end up sitting or anything like that. Just my intuition is that Giddey and Vooch both end up sitting, but it's really just the best guess. And to Matt's point before, like you would think of Chicago as this team that is completely dead for anything that matters, but they actually are the 9 seed right now. So not only would they make the play-in game or the play-in tournament right now if the season ended, they would have a home game in the first leg of that against the Miami Heat because the Heat just lose just about. I know the Heat have won a couple games in a row, but they had lost like 7 or 8 games in a row before that stretch. So these games do have a little bit more significance for Chicago than we would have thought a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they were punting the season when they traded Zach LaVine, but as has been the case throughout Zach LaVine's career, teams better when he's off the court than when he's on the court. He gets traded and the team's always like, I don't really understand it because I actually think Zach LaVine is good, but there is this bizarre thing where teams are kind of consistently better with him off the court and then they get better after he leaves. It happened in Minnesota. It happened in Chicago. Like this has kind of been a thing for him.
He's good. I don't think anyone would question whether he's good. Like even for NBA purposes, he's a good NBA player, but his game doesn't translate to winning, and he needs the ball in his hand, etc. The trade I think about when I'm thinking about the Bulls right now is everyone kind of shit on them for the Giddey for Caruso deal. I think a lot of that was just because the Thunder make great trades, but that was a good trade for the Bulls. Caruso is a niche player. Like he's very good on the Thunder, but Giddey is the better NBA player. I don't think that is even a question. Do you agree?
No, because Giddey's contract runs out in the offseason. They also had a trade offer. They also had a trade offer for multiple first-round picks that they turned down. So, like, the season's going to end. now I think they're just like pot committed to giving Giddey a massive contract, which I think is a mistake.
I mean, I don't disagree with that, but just in terms of like their productivity on an NBA court, I mean, they're nowhere near each other. Giddey is a very productive NBA player. Caruso's a niche player who's great on defense, but can't play a ton of minutes and does basically nothing offensively.
Yeah, it's kind of an odd scenario just from a standpoint of Caruso is more valuable to the Thunder than Josh Giddey was to the Thunder.
Totally. But I think Josh Giddey is more valuable to the Bulls than Caruso is to the Bulls.
Yes, with the caveat being that
the contract stuff, totally.
The contracts, but also to optimize Giddey, he kind of has to be your number one option. And a team with Josh Giddey as the number one option, this is the ceiling what the Bulls are right now.
I agree, but it's like Levine. The league is scattered with players like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but anyway, we'll start to look at the slate. We did get a question here from Del Toro 428i. He wants to know our favorite plays by position. If I'm not mistaken, you typically ask us questions related to FanDuel. Let me see if he answered. I did ask in the chat. Didn't follow up. DK, by the way, I see DK DFS in the chat asked, why do I think that he would sit? It's honestly related to the reporting of Josh Giddey's injury is so absurdly ridiculous, what it actually is to the detail of it, that it makes me think the Bulls are planning on sitting these guys. That's really, it's actually the reason why. But the other part of it too, from a DFS standpoint, also, I'm not overly confident these guys sit. I just think from a DFS standpoint, I'm not betting on these outcomes either, like prop betting. But from a DFS standpoint, I think there's more upside in building lineups as if these guys are going to sit than if they play. So that's more so what it is that I'm looking at it from an angle. I do feel better. Like if you tell me only one of Giddey or Vooch sits, I feel a little bit better about Giddey sitting than with Vooch sitting. And we didn't get a follow-up from Del Toro. Here's what we'll do, Matt. Let's go through our favorite plays at each position. You can do it for DraftKings. I'll do it for FanDuel, and they'll be covering it from both sides. And that'll be a good summation, which a lot of people are going to want to know from the chat anyway. So let's start at the point guard position, Matt. And let's see, what were the stipulations from the super chat? It was favorite plays. Yeah, just generally favorite plays by position. So, all right, we'll approach it this way, Matt. Just overall player that you consider the best option at point guard on DraftKings, then I'll do it for FanDuel. So starting on the DK side, Matt, who do you like most at point guard?
I feel like this is a rare bird these days, but give me Shea at 10-9 in a really good spot against Memphis. So he's not getting the ownership he should, and I think he's the best point guard option.
Davion Mitchell at a cheap price point over on FanDuel. That's what I like going to. Shooting guard, what do you got for us there?
I hate this, but it's AJ Johnson. I mean, it just is.
Yeah, I feel the same. Now, the caveat being we need that Wizards starting lineup.
Totally.
Like, it's reasonable. It's reasonable to expect AJ Johnson to start just because he started yesterday. With that being said, the Wizards changed their starting lineup right before lock for no real reason yesterday. So they're certainly not obligated to be married to any particular lineup. Assuming AJ Johnson starts, I think he looks fantastic. I'm also kind of surprised he's only projected for 26% ownership on FanDuel at a cheap price point. But either way, AJ Johnson, he's my guy at the shooting guard position, but it's pending that starting lineup. We could very easily see Colby Jones start today. If you guys remember yesterday, starting lineup comes out. Colby Jones is in it. And we're like, cool. We really like Colby Jones as a value play. 10 minutes later, new Wizards lineup comes out. Colby Jones is in it. For what reason? Who the hell knows? Did it help the Wizards? Did they benefit in any kind of way? Because like it was all of a sudden the 76ers freaking out like, oh my God, we thought Colby Jones was going to start. Now it's AJ Johnson. Throw out the game plan. Panic. It didn't matter. So I think AJ Johnson starts just because he started yesterday, but how confident could we be in that? Small forward. Who do you like most at small forward?
So at first I was going to say Andrew Wiggins, and I still like him, but I'm going to pivot and say, I'll probably say both these guys first. I'll just say Wiggins because I'll say the other guy for power forward.
All right. And it looks like we have a more recent update for data as well. So I'll flip this over and throw the updated ownership on screen. Also, ownership pretty spread out as of right now. For me at small forward, I'm going with Dalen Terry. Somebody in chat also asked, what is Josh Giddey's injury? I was not lying. He has what is being called a right flexor carpi ulnaris tendinopathy. I don't know what that is. That's just what is listed. If we got a doctor in the chat, which I don't think so, most of us are fairly dumb, myself included, around these. We know sports. We know guys who could throw a ball through a hoop. We don't know Carpi Olnaris. You tell me, that could be anything to me. That could be his elbow. That could be his penis. It could be his asshole. It could be his heel. I don't know. It could be any of those things. I've never heard of the. I've heard of some of these words individually. I've heard right before, right, left. I know that one. Flexor. I know that. Carpi. I know of carpal tunnel. So maybe it's a wrist injury. Carpi, right? Maybe that's a thing. Ulnaris, no clue what that is. Tendinopathy, I've heard that before. Also don't totally know what it is. So just because I know carpal tunnel is a thing, I'm assuming that means a wrist injury, but still, just the best guess. Just the best guess. At small forward, that is going to be Dalen Terry for me. I can't remember if I had said that before. Did you give your small forward out?
My small forward's Wiggins.
Okay. Power forward, that is going to be for me. Chet Holmgren. Chet looks like a really good low-owned option over on FanDuel.
I respect that. I'm going to go with LeBron for my power forward. One of my favorite plays on the slate. Got a lot of love last night and wasn't very productive. He's another guy that's just getting a ton of leverage here. He's coming in with a ton of leverage, I should say. Under-owned, really good spot. LeBron's never a guy I'm worried about on a back-to-back. I mean, this goes back to his Cleveland days. I've watched this dude forever. He brings it on back-to-backs if he's playing, and I expect nothing less here. So the other part about that and why I was so amped to talk about him, it kind of goes into your Giddey and Vooch points, because the more exposure you have to that game, the more you can get to it. Maybe you play Bron, but then if Giddey and Vooch are in, or just Giddey is in, you pivot off, whatever you want to do. But either way, I like LeBron James a ton here.
Yeah. So, by the way, just to make me look, the Bulls only did this to make me look like an idiot. Giddey and Vooch both in today. So there we go. Giddey and Vooch, both of them in. Both of them in. So there's no angle to be had now by trying to play for them to be out, because they're in. The center position, I'm going to go with, there's a lot of good center eligible players on FanDuel that I'm getting exposure to. We've got Bam Adebayo, Alex Sarr, Khalil Ware, Chet, who I already gave out a power forward. Boy, I've got my exposure really. I'm going to go with Sarr here. I like Sarr in general. He's somebody who has really started to play better as the season's gone on, and also has taken on a bigger usage role as of late. And that's kind of something we should expect from younger rookie players, especially as the season goes on. Like, there's nobody who's going to have more substantial improvements from the beginning of the season to the end of the season than first-year players. We've seen, like, Trae Young, miserable his rookie year in the first half, and then was legitimately really good by the end of the year. You look at what Sarr is doing in the month of March now: 17 points per game, 1.5 blocks, half a steal, 7 rebounds, 2.5 assists. He's also done it while playing only 27.5 minutes, and his minutes have been getting ramped up as of late. He's played over 30 minutes in back-to-back games. Also, I tend to think he'd probably play blowouts at this point if the game was lopsided, because what the hell else are the Wizards playing for? So I'm going to go with Sarr at center, but there's a lot of good center options on FanDuel. How about yourself, Matt?
I'm going to go with another guy that I just think looks really good and is under-owned, Khalil Ware, the rookie out of Indiana, who we know is very productive. So give me some Khalil Ware at 5,600 here.
And we've got some super chats here. We've got one from 1-2. He says, all right, there's some sort of beef going on in the chat, because 1-2 has left a super chat that says, clown of the day, Paul Akezi. And then he said, no doctors, but avid Giddey defender in chat. All right. Well, I'm not up to date on whatever the hell it is that's going on in the chat, but
I feel like we're in a live spaces right now.
Yeah. It's the betting spaces. It somehow infiltrated the DFS talk here.
Yeah, no thanks on that.
Now I'm gonna have to scroll up later to go ahead and look. Maybe they're arguing about whatever the injury is. That totally doesn't matter anymore because they're both playing. Mm-hmm. Let's see if there's any questions that came to us from Discord. And we've got one here from Coach. Coach DFS wants to know, who are the must DK plays for 20 max? All right, so let's go and look at overall the slate as a whole, Matt, before we went over some of our favorite players at each position. But who are the guys that you would say people absolutely don't have to have 100% of them, but if they were playing 20 lineups per the question that we got from Coach, who are players who he absolutely has to be playing at least to some extent across 20 lineups?
A lot of players in that regard. I mean, a lot of it's going to be a pretty concentrated pool, but there's going to be a bunch of players that I think you want to get some exposure to. AJ Johnson, we talked about, all the guys we just mentioned at the top plays. But then Paolo Banchero is a guy that's getting a lot of love that I think looks good I don't think you want to just fade him. Bam Adebayo. Like if you're telling me it's one lineup, you can fade anyone, but in 20 lineups, I want exposure to basically all the top plays on the slate. Do you see it differently?
Yeah, so one thing that is interesting you guys could see here in the ownership projections for a slate that isn't that big, we've only got 4 players project for north of 30% ownership. And then also we lost a potential value angle here, which, in hindsight now, I guess I'm happy that they got ruled in before lock because I was going to be playing my lineups if they weren't playing. One of the reasons I wanted to build my lineups that way is because there is such a lack of value, which is also so rare for this point of the NBA season. You got a 6-game slate here, and you've got AJ Johnson 40% owned, Wiggins 37% owned, Bam 32% owned, Banchero 30% owned. It's crazy. That's it for a 6-game slate that we have as far as most popular players. So there aren't too many guys. The only player having more than half my lineups right now is AJ Johnson. He's the only one, Matt.
Yeah, I get that. When I was running through the list, it does seem like a slate where, like, kind of like I said, you want exposure to a bunch of guys, but there aren't like the, Dennis Schroeder's from the other night where you just jam him. Now he was overowned and sucked, but you get my point. Like there's no one on like that on the slate. If AJ Johnson were 3,200, he'd be like that, but he's 4,200. So he's a very good play, but there's no one on this slate that just projects so well from a points per dollar basis that you have to play them. I totally with that.
Yeah. And then, right now AJ Johnson's my most rostered player, but no guarantees he ends up starting. And then that could be something that we have to, pivot on there. But overall, I'll say here are the ones like AJ Johnson is somebody who for sure you want to be getting exposure to. And then also something else as a consideration is, we still do have some key players who are on the injury report that maybe for later could end up mattering. Although with that said, like Jalen Williams, he's been out for long enough to where the OKC players are kind of priced for it at this point. Cason Wallace, he's questionable. OKC's so deep that they can just plug kind of anybody into Cason Wallace's role. I don't think it changes all that much. To me, the real significance of Jalen Williams being questionable, Matt, is that if he is in, I think SGA takes a hit. If he's out, then I think SGA still continues to look pretty good. I know before you had said you like SGA. Does that equation change if Jalen Williams is ruled in later?
I wouldn't say it changes in that I don't like him anymore, but it certainly doesn't make me like him anymore. And at a 10-9 tag, you want everything you can get. Now, that said, it's a really good spot, and he's cheaper than he's been. So I still like him on this slate considered. I don't think he looks like as good of a play, but I think his ownership might come down just enough where it balances out. So I'm still Team Shea, even if Jalen Williams is in, even though, clearly I don't love it from a projection standpoint.
One thing I do think is pretty funny. Just like, we got a smaller show going here, so I'm reading more of the comments that come through in the chat, especially because before we had that battle going on. So I just scroll up to read it all. Hopes and Dreams says these shows are just fishing shows seeking sentiment. We have ownership projections on our site. I promise you guys, and this is not a knock against anybody. I don't even say I very rarely there's very rare times that like Matt or Eric or Josh will say something that really influences my lineups just because I have my process and it kind of is what it is. I will promise you there is nothing that people say in chat that I all of a sudden go, oh my God, I have to change all of my projections and ownership now. It's not something that no offense to you guys in chat either, but hopes and dreams. That is absolutely not what I'm doing when I'm hosting these shows. It is not what I'm doing.
I got
we've got the ownership projections on the site, right? Like and also it's very 20 people are posting in chat. It's a very small representative sample size to gauge any kind of ownership. This is what I assume the ownership is, what we have projected on the site. This is, and here are the most popular players: AJ Johnson, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, Paulo Banchero on DraftKings. On FanDuel, the most popular projected players right now are Davion Mitchell. By the way, the only guy over 28% owned in our projections on FanDuel. Another one pretty spread out. Franz Wagner, AJ Johnson, Bam Adebayo, and then you got Donovan Mitchell. But really, really spread out ownership over on FanDuel. As far as the DraftKings ownership goes, Matt, are any of these guys who are chalk pieces of these four, or I guess five guys we'll consider of the, we just got this. So Jared Allen, 30% on. Is there anybody you're looking at as a chalk option who you think is too popular over on DraftKings?
Yes, but again, it's all relative because there isn't anyone like projected to be over 40% owned. So like, I think that Wiggins is a little bit too high. I think that Bam is like a little bit too high based on their optimal percentages. But in the context of the slate, like, I don't think being 6% over owned based on your optimal percentage is that big of a deal, as long as all your lineup aren't guys like that. So for me, not really. I mean, again, like I think if you want to nitpick, Wiggins is a little bit over-owned. Bam is a little bit over-owned. Jared Allen is over-owned. But again, I don't think it's anything crazy enough where I'm like, I don't want to play those guys because of ownership.
Yeah, and we have a kind of an interesting question in chat. Somebody asked, how does Stokastic project ownership? Same as we do player projections, an algorithm. Just based on some of the available information, we project ownership same way that you'd project. It's different, but at the same time as well, like it's based on projections. But yeah, just an algorithm. It's not like we have any actual insights in people we're actually rostering. It's same as fantasy point projections. NBA is a little bit more projectable than other sports, but it's not like we know the exact amount of fantasy points people are going to score.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Sorry.
We did get a question in Discord. This one is from Capanakella. Capanakella wants to say, nurse here, it's the tendon that connects the carpals and the ulnar of the arm and the wrist that allow for flexion. And then he says, nice terminology breakdown, by the way. All right, I wasn't that far off. I guess the wrist, that seems like the wrist to me. He says it connects the pinky side of the arm and the wrist. That's close enough. I said wrist. That was one of the things that was listed there. I threw out every other body part as well.
Yeah, I thought you were right on with whatever you said it was. So I'm going to stick with what you said.
We got a super chat from 1-2. He says, all Rozier projections are manually done by Greg. Absolutely. He texts me and he lets me know in advance how many fantasy points he's going to score, which is easy because it's always less than 10. So every day I just get the text, hey, how many fantasy points are you going to score? And it's always, don't play me. I'm going to suck again today. And he always comes through. He's generally always shit. Our projection on Terry Rozier today, by the way, projected for a solid 10 minutes and 8.75 fantasy points. So once again, his text message about how he's going to suck today, it's coming through in our projections. All right. Let's go ahead, Matt, and start to look here at some of the pay-up options on the slate where, it doesn't look like we're getting all that much value that's going to come through, especially now that we've got some of the Bulls guys confirmed in to mostly make me look like an idiot. I assume that's the only reason they did that as they did and when they did. I know you said that you like SGA at point guard before. Is he your favorite overall spend-up option on the slate?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he's my favorite spend-up option when you consider the ownership, etc. I like him and LeBron a lot, both very evenly. I don't have a strong opinion between the two, but if I had to choose, it'd be Shea.
It's a tricky one for me because the answer is LeBron for me right now. It would be SGA if Jalen Williams is ruled out. My best guess, though, is I think Jalen Williams is going to play. I think. I don't know that for sure, but I think that's the most likely outcome here.
Okay, yeah, I kind of agree with you. That does muddy the waters a little bit, but again, I still like Shea a lot here. And it's like almost like if you were still in the in the 11 Ks and not in this good matchup, I think I'd agree with you. But he is under 11K and in a really good matchup. So that's how I see it.
Guitar Z-Man says, with that hair, nobody's going to make you look bad. Jealous. Yeah, it's doing its Jufro thing right now. I haven't gotten it cut in a minute. We'll see, though. We'll see. I've gotten some good feedback. Lonzo Ball ruled out again. See, very simple. Why can't they do Lonzo Ball? Wrist injury. They just say wrist. Why long words for Josh Giddey on the injury report? Why? Just tell me what body part it is. Einsteinium asked us, any interest in playing guys like Sam Merrill, Alec Burks? I don't know who else would fall into, he said, if we're interested in playing guys like Sam Merrill, Alec Burks, do you just mean Sam Merrill and Alec Burks? Like, I don't even know who the other guys are that are kind of in that category, but I guess this way, any guys who you're taking a punt on today, like any kind of crazy value option. I think that's probably the best way to explain this.
So I think there's a few guys, including those two. Merrill has looked good recently. Now, he's very volatile. If his shot isn't falling, he won't play because that's what he does.
Yeah.
But he started last game. He was good. They're missing guys tonight. So he should get run. Okay, he's not like guaranteed to get run if he's not making shots, but he at least should get the run and the opportunity to make shots, which for him is kind of all you want. So I like him. Burks, I don't like as much. He's 100 less, getting double the ownership with the same optimal percentage. Give me Merrill. If you don't have the 100, I'm not changing my lineups to get Merrill, but I'd rather play Merrill, all things considered. I think that two other guys, forward and center, Dean Wade from the Cavs also is interesting. The tools like him more than either Merrill or Burks. He's got the forward eligibility. He's 3,100. He projects for less fantasy points than those guys, but just slightly, and he's cheaper, and he's at a less valuable forward position. And then Jalen Smith. We know the story with Jalen Smith. Like, he's 3K, and he projects for 18 fantasy points. Things can always get weird. If they do, Jalen Smith can break this slate at 3K. This game gets blowouty or anything like that. He's probably a guy you're going to want at 3K. So I think there is a few cheap guys to choose from, even though none of them project like amazing.
Yeah, and if we go ahead and look over at the Cleveland Cavaliers in our projections and talk about some of the guys who are of interest right now, Max Strus was the cheap guy you'd mentioned from Cleveland, correct?
I did not mention Strus. I mentioned Merrill.
Oh, okay. My bad. I misheard there. Anyway, we got Sam Merrill projected for, 19.5 fantasy points for him at $3,500 on a slate where people don't really have that many value options to choose from. I don't have an issue going to Sam Merrill. I think that he is definitely a viable value option for today. Dean Wade, you got Dean Wade at $3,100. He is starting Dean Wade. So I think you could take a chance on Dean Wade. One thing that I do think is kind of interesting here, Matt, to tie this into Sam Merrill, Dean Wade, now that he's starting, we have him projected for 17% ownership and 19 fantasy points. We actually do have Sam Merrill projected for more fantasy points. Price tag's a little bit more expensive, but it's $400, so it's kind of marginal. I do think it's interesting that Sam Merrill projects better than Dean Wade, both of them being at a cheap price point, but Dean Wade is 17% owned and Merrill's only 4% owned.
Yeah, I think it's a byproduct of just the Ty Jerome being out, and that Merrill's minutes are probably just more secure. I don't know, though. Wade starting would tell you another story there. So I think both are in play. Wade is not a good fantasy producer. I mean, neither is Merrill really, but I think Merrill has an easier time getting there if his shot is going. I mean, Wade can get there, but he's clearly the fifth option whenever he's on the floor. So you're going to need some defensive stats. Both are in play. They're so cheap. The tools with Lean Wade, I have no arguments with that, especially at the ownership.
Yeah, they're both under-owned. They're both under-owned per our projections. We got Sam Merrill, 4% ownership, just under a 10% chance to be optimal. Dean Wade, 17% ownership, 21.5% chance to be optimal. I think these are both guys that we could look at for today. The other question that we got, it was about Alec Burks. And if we go ahead and look at the Miami Heat, well, it would help if I didn't try to spell the Miami Heat as Burks, because I was thinking about two things at the exact same time. But anyway, we got Alec Burks in at $3,400. Kind of similar to the other guys, 24 minutes, 19 fantasy points. Like, I think Alec Burks is pretty comparable to Sam Merrill. I just slightly prefer Merrill because he has half the ownership.
Yeah, I'm with that. I mean, the only thing that I'll say to that is like, I wouldn't be, the owner, as you kind of alluded to earlier, there's just ownership projections. So like,
Yeah.
would it surprise you if they're both 6%? No. But even if they're the same ownership, I like Merrill more anyways. So it doesn't really matter, but I'm with you in general.
By the way, we did get a starting lineup for Washington, which is not the lineup that I was hoping that they would roll out. We do have Chris Middleton is going to be back in the starting lineup here. So the starting lineup for Washington, it is Poole, Carrington, Champetti, Middleton, and Sarr. Middleton's role is kind of tricky because even though they've been starting him, it's not been all that many minutes. But now you do get this scenario where AJ Johnson's coming off the bench now. He's still projected for a ton of ownership. What is your feeling on AJ Johnson now that he is not starting?
Not playing him. I mean, I don't think it's like as cut and dry as that. If you're playing 150, you don't take him out of the pool. Wait for projections to upload and go with that accordingly. But for someone who plays minimal lineups, like I don't really want to mess with Washington bench guys that aren't like supreme values. He's in the 4Ks. Like even starting, I think you could make cases to get away from him. Not starting, I'm good.
Yeah. So I'm really interested to see if his ownership changes. It should, because actually, all right, we just got a projections update in. Let's see what ends up happening to the ownership now. I'm really curious to see the ownership on AJ Johnson because we've got the projections updated here, which here I'll go back to Washington. So these are updated projections for the starting lineup where we have Alex Sarr in now for 35 fantasy points. We've got Bub Carrington in for just under 27 fantasy points. We have AJ Johnson still for 25 and a half fantasy points, Matt. So he's still projecting really well. Minutes, once again, pretty hard to nail down, though. Jordan Poole project for 25 and a half fantasy points. And, even though Poole's starting, his minutes have been also all over the place as of late, but more so on the low side. Then you've got Vukcevic. He's projected for 24 fantasy points. We got Middleton just for 21. We still don't project for sub 20 minutes, even though he's starting. But we've got the updated projections for Washington. Still waiting on, well, actually, maybe if I update, maybe the ownership will be here now. It is. All right. So here's what we have for ownership now. AJ Johnson has gone from, no, he's still 31% owned here. All right. So 31.5% owned AJ Johnson at $4,200 coming off the bench. All right. Now that we have this updated information, what do you make of AJ Johnson?
Yeah. I feel even better about not playing him. I mean, if he's going to be chalky nonetheless, like, yeah, I obviously know that he could come off the bench and go nuts here, but it's AJ Johnson. I mean, again, I think there were cases to be made for getting away from him, even if he started. So off the bench, popular, I'm totally good on that. If he beats me type of thing.
I assume he's going to land in some lineups for me. Now I know
Sure.
that you, and for us, one of the things that I really like about our dynamic on shows is that I'm usually playing 150 lineups and you are usually playing, like single entry, 3 max stuff where the strategies could be a little bit different. So I updated my lineups right now. I don't know for sure. My best guess is that I'm going to be playing AJ Johnson, but underweight to the field. But if I was just entering a single entry lineup right now, AJ Johnson wouldn't be in it, Matt, assuming this ownership holds.
Yeah, we see that so similarly, and I figured as much. Like, if you're 150ing, you definitely want exposure to him. It's a small enough slate. He still projects as one of the better values, but I think he's going to be overowned, especially in those smaller type contests. So, again, like, I don't think he's an awful play. If you have 4,200 left in your last spot, like, go ahead and play AJ Johnson. I don't think he's going to, like, be the difference in the slate one way or the other. I just think he's now going to be one of the most overowned players on the slate because he projected so well all day, and he still looks good. So people aren't going to want to get off him, and I get it, but I don't want to play a popular AJ Johnson coming off the bench personally.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Totally makes sense. Is there anybody else who's maybe more appealing to you from Washington now? Maybe like is Bub Carrington a viable leverage option off of AJ Johnson, or is it just you'd rather look to roster players from other teams?
Yeah, it's just other teams I think look better because they look worse. I like your star call a lot. Like he obviously looks really good, but that didn't change. Um, Carrington's tough because we still have, AJ Johnson projecting similarly to him, and Johnson's cheaper. So I do think that as a pivot, it makes sense. And he is coming in with leverage, and I do think he's clearly just the better player than AJ Johnson. So yeah, I guess in totality, I do like that call as a pivot. You're giving up some projection or some value in projection, spending up on him, but he's still under 5K and he's starting, and he's at least shown upside that AJ Johnson has not. So yeah, I can dig that. Mostly though, like I don't know how much Washington I ever want to play.
Yeah.
That case is the same tonight. I mean, I like your star call again, and Johnson and Carrington are in play, but outside of them and I guess Vucevic, like nothing else for me really.
By the way, we just ran another projections update, and we did lower the projection on AJ Johnson down to 22.2 now. So
That
I
changes
assume that
things.
yeah. So something else, because people asked about ownership projections before, but a little bit of insight into our player projections. One thing that is taken into account in those are the betting odds. And I would assume that probably what happened here is that AJ Johnson was initially projected to play bigger minutes by sportsbooks. And now what's probably happening now that he isn't starting, I assume his betting lines are probably starting to come down, and that's something that's influenced our projections coming down as well. So probably something that's ended up happening there. I see we got some super chats. What do we have? Sam Van Dam. Sam says, if I'm avoiding AJ Johnson with one lineup and I have $4,700 left for shooting guard, then who? All right. $4,700 at shooting guard. Let's see who the viable options are. Sort by projection at shooting guard. All right. So we've got Max Strus is $4,300. AJ Johnson, $4,200. Cason Wallace, who's questionable, is $4,200. We do have Strus projected better. He's going to be my answer here. Oh, where did Matt go? All right. I guess Matt's internet cut out or something. I'll send him a message. Just making sure everything's okay. Oh, he's back.
Yeah, this is the first time that's ever happened. I accidentally closed the tab. I had too many tabs open.
I
thought I was closing playback.
I assumed your internet went out. I didn't know for sure, but I was just going to message you to make sure everything was okay. But also, like, I'm kind of talking, looking at both screens, like, hey, Matt isn't here. I was like, something seems different. What is it? And it was like, porn.
I didn't even message you because I knew I could get on right. As soon as I did it, I was like, oh, crap. I thought it was playback, and we weren't on playback, but it wasn't playback, obviously.
Yeah, we got now anytime anything weird goes on the stream, everybody assumes that porn's about to pop up after the playback mishap from last week. So RB in chat said we'll see Mia Khalifa in a second now. Not quite. You got me and Matt to look at instead, but all good. Anyway, I don't know how much of that you had heard, but Sam Van Dam had left us a super chat and had asked us if he's trying to pivot off of AJ Johnson, who could he play at a comparable price point? And I mean, I think the answer is kind of Max Strus, and there isn't really another option.
Yeah. So if I heard it correctly, it was under 4,700 was the exact question, or was that a different question?
It was the same question. So it's any shooting guard. He's got $4,700 left. I say Max Strus.
I say Max Strus too. Now, I also think Colby Jones, just given our tools, looks for this slate pretty damn good at 3,200 with good positional eligibility. So maybe I'd make some changes there if it's like a one lineup type thing. But if not, then I'd play Strus.
Okay. Yeah, Strus for myself. That is the direction that I want to be going. But let's see what else we have for questions. And if there aren't any more, then we'll do the nuke of the night before we. Yeah, actually, you know what? Let's run the nuke of the night, Matt, and then I'll get the rest of the questions organized. So here we go. Time for the animation. Ooh. Well, I was tempted to do something, but I'm not. I'm just going to play this.
10-meter charge. 10, 9, 8, 7.
All right, Matt, we got an interesting slate here. There aren't very many obvious plays. We don't have a lot of value to look at, potentially opening up later either. So I want to know what direction you're going in. Nuke of the night for you. What's a GPP play you really like for this slate?
I've been thinking about this since you asked me who my favorite stud was. And I like Shea a lot. But man, I love LeBron James here. I like the spot. I love him on back-to-backs. Like, not that I like him more on a back-to-back than if it weren't. He's just the guy that it doesn't bother me at all. I mean, it's LeBron James. That's all I need to say. Coming in less than 20% owned with a 25 plus percent chance of being optimal. I really, really like Bron here. And I don't think the ownership's going to get up there at all, especially after last night's dud.
Yeah, I like LeBron a good amount as a pay-up option as well. Mentioned him that he is my overall most rostered pay-up option for me on the entire slate right now. I do want to check something right here. Do we have? Yeah, we do have an ownership update. All right, where do we have? Let me go back to the stupid Washington team. And all right, so ownership has come up a little bit on the guy that I was considering going to right there. So let's reconfigure a little bit. All right. Boy, what direction do I want to go here? There's not very much good value, Matt. There's not very much good
That's
value.
why I mentioned Colby Jones, honestly. The only reason.
All right, I'm going to go to a guy who I also talked about when it came to FanDuel before as a center I liked, but didn't come out as my favorite overall center play. Somebody who I picked as my nuke of the night, was it earlier in the week, I think, or maybe the end of last week, but Khalil Ware, who is an excellent fantasy producer, super inconsistent and not all that great from a real life perspective, but he's a rookie. He's going to improve as he goes. He also hasn't really played all that much. Like, there was a point in time where he had played it was like 300 minutes for the entire season. He was all of a sudden the favorite to win rookie of the year because of how poor this rookie draft class is. And then, he kind of lost his starting spot. His minutes went down for a little bit. Those odds went away, and now he's back in the starting lineup. But you got a matchup here for Khalil Ware against the Atlanta Hawks, which the Hawks have proven to be a little bit better on defense than I think we would have expected coming into the season. But also, Matt, kind of a really high leverage rivalry game where you consider both these teams are in the standings. I think we could see bigger minutes from the starters in this game for both teams. You got modest ownership on Khalil Ware. And while his minutes have been inconsistent at times because he isn't the best real life player, when he is playing well, they do give him bigger minutes. He gets extended. He's massive fantasy upside because he's a really good points per minute fantasy producer. So I like Khalil Ware at modest ownership. And I think the mid-range is really important today. We don't have a lot of salary saving to easily fit stars into lineups like we normally do at this point of the year.
Yeah, I like Ware a lot. I mentioned him as my favorite center, and I think that's a great call.
Yeah, so Khalil Ware, that is going to be the one for me. Some more questions that we have here from Discord. The first one here, M. Grizzly. Anybody that we are boosting or anyone who are doing anything to prepare for late swaps? Not really. I don't think this is going to be a late swap heavy slate, Matt.
Totally agree. There aren't any late games either. So, yeah, no, nothing for me there.
Pat Clay Tomstar, are the Mavs my least exposed team? Boy, Pat Clay Tomstar, he cannot get through a show without asking us about his beloved Dallas Mavericks. Are the Mavs my least exposed team?
They're not even on the slate. They're not on the slate.
I don't have very much of them. Don't have very much of them. They're on the slate.
Dallas?
They play Orlando.
Yeah, I don't have any of them. That's why I was completely out of it.
So there is not a single player who projects remotely well from them. Not a single player who projects remotely well. So
I had completely forgotten they were on the slate.
Yeah, so it's a bad matchup for them against Orlando. As far as relative to salary, here's the player who projects the best relative to salary on the entire team. It's Kai Jones, projected for 21 fantasy points at $4,900. The problem, we got a question from Einsteinium about Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis is just not going to play extended minutes, not in the near future. He asked, could Anthony Davis play over 28? No, I think he is far more likely to play under 28 minutes than over 28. The minutes range we got from him was 24 to 28 minutes. And that was, we heard last game, a 28 minutes restriction on him. And he ended up playing, let's see, what were the minutes we got last game out of Anthony Davis? He played 26 minutes in that game. He played 26 minutes last game. We'd heard 24 to 20 minutes. I think he plays 26 minutes again. So
Um,
when it comes to Anthony Davis, it's also because he's still fairly expensive at 10-1. Like maybe be a consideration if he was like in the 8K range, but I don't have interest in playing Anthony Davis, Matt.
I've never seen a team look worse in the in the boom bust tool, and it's explained with Anthony Davis. Like he's back, he makes everyone else look a lot worse, but he's not in play in the least. So, yeah, forgive me for forgetting they were on the slate.
Yeah, I mean, you should forget they're on the slate. This is not a team we want to be rostering. Once again, the Dallas Mavericks for today. And to your point also, the highest odds of anybody on the team to be in the optimal lineup for today, it is Najee Marshall at 0.9%. It's low.
That is insane.
It is low. So anyway, Pat Clay Thompson, I have 0% exposure to the Dallas Mavericks. I don't know what my exact exposures are to every team. I do know I don't have anybody from Dallas. So I can't have less than 0%. I can't have like -% of any team. So they're as low as it gets. Let's see. What is the next question? Next question that we have from Discord. It is from Krebsy. Krebsy wants to know Sarr or Turner. I prefer Sarr to Turner.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Yeah, I have Sarr in 40% of my lineups. I have Turner in 4%. So that's an easy answer for me. The next question, it is from King Yusuf. He wants to do like Davion Mitchell and Anthony Black as top value plays on DraftKings. So I don't like either of them as top value plays. Let's see. What do I have? Oh, actually, I take that back. I like Davion Mitchell a good amount. As far as Anthony Black,
he also looks pretty good.
Yeah, like relative to the slate, they both look fine. Like I don't feel great about either of them. They're kind of like a necessary evil because the rest of the value sucks.
Totally.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to answer because I don't like them. I like them better than most other cheap options today, though.
Yeah, Anthony Black has now seen his price tag creep up to 4K. Like, he's fine. On a lot of slates, wouldn't really be looking at him, but on this slate, we just don't have great value. And he's honestly one of the cheapest. Like him and Davion Mitchell are two of the cheapest guys that actually project decently. So they're both in play. I like Mitchell more, to your point, but he's also higher owned, not significantly, but enough where I wouldn't fault anyone for playing Black instead.
Yeah. His I view Davion Mitchell as kind of a necessary evil to this. This should be a low scoring slate. Should be on paper. You never know. Game could go to overtime. Weird shit could happen. This should be a low scoring game, though.
Well,
a low scoring slate.
The thing is, you don't have like the really concentrated chalk value and then spend up options that can go off and make slates crazy high scoring. Like you might get like a couple of outlier scores here, but like you don't have like the 3K guy that projects for 30 and then Jokic who can go for 90.
Yeah. By the way, guys, don't forget that even though the baseball season started today, you could still take advantage of our $1 cycle promo. So if you're going to be playing tomorrow's MLB slate, maybe you're busy today. You weren't able to play the slate because you're at work and it was an afternoon locking slate. Head on over to our site or just use the link down below in the YouTube description box. And you could sign up for any MLB package for just $1 with the promo code cycle. And it doesn't matter if you signed up yesterday, today, tomorrow, whatever day it is that you sign up, you're going to get access for just $1 for any package of your choosing through April 3rd, just $1. And then that package you choose, it will renew on April 4th. So check out our tools. It's just $1. If you've been considering playing MLB DFS, why not check out our tools for $1 and see if they're for you? Let's see. We have some super chats here. Corey Bomber is asking us Donovan Mitchell or Kobe White, and then also wants to know any love for Buzelis today. Donovan Mitchell, Matt, or Kobe White for you?
That's a good one. Man, it's tough to get away from Kobe White and how good he's playing. I don't love either, but I'm going to say Kobe White. How about you?
Donovan Mitchell for me. I do have 22% of Donovan Mitchell. It's around even with the field, but Let's see, what do I have of Colby White for today? Yeah, I really didn't get to Kobe White. I mean, another thing too, you get to this part of the season, this kind of happens frequently where it's Kobe White and Donovan Mitchell almost the same salary. Donovan Mitchell is just he's the better fantasy producer. He's a better player. He's been the better fantasy producer and the better player for forever. It is just kind of funny what happens as the usage gets a little bit more condensed. I would have felt differently if Josh Giddey was ruled out, but I do think there's part of this. Like Kobe White's almost partially priced as if Giddey wouldn't play today. It's a big price tag to pay for Kobe White.
So I agree with you. And I think if you're just looking at him one for one, in that regard, Mitchell does look slightly better, but there's holes to poke in that, at least in my opinion. One being Mitchell's more expensive. He's way higher owned. And two, Mitchell is clearly the better NBA player, the better fantasy player, the better everything. But it's a weird time of the season. Cleveland's not playing for a thing. They have the 1 seed locked up. The Bulls, we don't really know what they're doing, but all their guys are playing. So, I think that, again, I don't say play Kobe White over Mitchell because of that. I just think it's closer when you add in that nuance, if you will.
Oh, this is funny. Tizzle Main in chat said he made a dummy lineup with the players I said were home run picks yesterday. Somebody left us a power chat yesterday and asked who am I picking to homer for today's games, and I hadn't really thought about it all that much. So I just pulled up the top batters tool, Matt, and just read off the players who were projected most likely to homer as of yesterday. Tizzle Main said he made a lineup just of all the players that were most likely to homer. It's in first place right now.
That is amazing.
All right.
That's incredible.
All right. Interesting. By the way, if you guys haven't done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Just 3 minutes left to go here when this show ends. I'm not going to be doing a post-lock show over on Playback, but we will switch from the baseball games over to the basketball games, and I'll post the link in here as well. So if you guys want to hang out in Playback and watch some of the basketball games tonight, you could certainly go ahead and do that. And Buzelis, that's a no for me. I don't really have him. Note for Jason, best cash game lock and contrarian why do you want a contrarian cash game play? It's like the antithesis of what it is you're looking to do for cash games. The point of cash games, ownership only matters in terms of you want to be playing the best projected guys, and you don't want to be playing you don't want to be fading an 80% owned guy who the field is on in cash games. But you want to be playing the chalk in general in cash games. So to answer the second part of your question, don't try to play contrarian cash game lineups. It defeats the purpose. Best cash game players overall. I mean, I guess some of the Heat guys, Andrew Wiggins, Bam Adebayo, Davion Mitchell, Jared Allen's another one, but there just aren't surefire smash sort of cash options. I'll just go with the Heat guys and Davion Mitchell, Andrew Wiggins, and Bam Adebayo. Anybody else you look at as a must-play sort of guy in cash?
I don't think so. I think you kind of hit it on the head. And there are a bunch of good plays on the slate. And I think that's part of the reason why you don't this is definitely not the type of slate you want to get different on cash game plays, because there's just a lot of really good plays, but there aren't any of those guys that just you need to jam ownership wise that are 60 or 70% owned. So I don't know. I think we see it pretty similar in that regard.
All right. And by the way, just going to drop that Playback link in there so you guys can go ahead and find it. M. Grizzly wants to know who is my highest owned player and what's the ownership. So let's see. My final run of lineups, it is 50%. 50% of Andrew Wiggins right now is my highest owned player. Bando wants to know who benefits the most with Rui out. Nobody really. He's been out for a minute here. Dr. 2-Inch says almost broke character there with that cash game question. What character? I don't even know. I feel like I'm missing something here, Matt.
Yeah, I don't know. Was that directed to you or the person who asked the question?
He said to me, he said I almost broke character answering the cash game. I don't even know what the character. I honestly don't get the Dr. 2-Inch. Dr. 2-Inch, who oversees, Eric's private region. Let me know, because I think I'm missing something. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. If you have not done it yet, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, head on over to Playback. I've got the link dropped in there. I know NY Stiegel is saying keep MLB rolling on Playback. Here's the problem with that, NY Stiegel. We've had Playback running over there for baseball. There's 50 people watching. I think we're going to have more people watch if we go to basketball. if I go ahead and put the basketball game on and there just aren't people who are watching the basketball game either, then I'll let you guys decide later on. But I have a feeling there's going to be a little bit more interest in the basketball games than baseball, just looking at some of the data here. So we'll go to basketball. But if there is a strong swell that prefers baseball, then we could definitely switch back to that. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Once again, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Check out our baseball promo code cycle, just $1 through April 3rd. I mean, you won't find a better deal than that all season. So take advantage of it while you can. Other than that, guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a great night. We'll see you here tomorrow. Peace.